So I hear the barbarian needs to be nerfed again, and so does the sorceress, right? Well, I know it's kind of a running meme, a running joke. Yeah, the rogue and the druid are, in my opinion, kind of the best characters to rock, but as you can see, the barbarian can still put out some considerable damage and work pretty darn good. So today I'm going to go over a whirlwind barbarian build that I think is very good. So you can really get out there and slay those demons and hopefully get as high level as possible. We're going to jump starting into this skill tree right here. We're on d4builds.gg. There will be a link at the top of the description to this build right here, or I would love if you follow along with the video as you respec. But if not, if you're going to jump straight to the website, just hit the like button before you go. I'd much appreciate it. And go ahead and subscribe up if it's the first time seeing my channel. So right here, starting off at the top of the skill tree, the barbarian, I love using lunging strike. That way more early on, or if you can cover some more ground, lunging at the monsters you're attacking. Enhanced lunging strike, obviously you're going to go through that to get up to combat lunging strike. Critical strikes with lunging strike grant you berserking for a second and a half. If you come over to it gives them bleeding 20%. I mean, you could do that. I actually use that early on, but later game, go ahead and combat lunging strike is kind of the way to go. I would recommend. Obviously, whirlwind over here. You want to cap that out at all 5 points you can get into it. Come up to enhanced, obviously, and move over to the violent side. Obviously, whirlwind 30% increased damage until it is canceled. That's pretty obvious, pretty OP. There's no way you're going to want to go with the other one unless it's like super early on and you can't really whirlwind a whole lot. Once again, the bleeding I did use like super early on when I was rocking the whirlwind barbarian, but then you're obviously going to want to switch over to that later game, no doubt. Cap this out, pressure point, not necessarily right off the bat, but you're definitely going to want to do that. After above level 50, it's going to want to be capped out for sure. Now, you use a lot of shouts on this particular build, so we're coming over to rallying cry, come up over obviously through enhanced, and then come over to tactical rallying cry. So it generates 20 fury and grants an additional 20% resource generation. This will keep it up when you are, spin to win. Keep your energy up as much as possible, because everything that you do generate while you're going through whirlwind, the ways that you do generate fury, you're getting 20% more, fellas. So now coming over to a challenging shout, another one. This one, we're actually going to go ahead and cap out. You see, rallying cry is just one, cap out actually challenging shout. So taunt nearby enemies and get 48% damage reduction for 6 seconds. So helping out survivability, obviously you're going to be right up in these monsters' faces as you are spinning through them. Obviously you're coming through enhanced over to tactical challenging shout. So while challenging shout is active, gain 3 fury each time you take damage. And since you're going through monsters, you're taking damage all the time. Now you're coming over to war cry, the next shout that we're having at our disposal right here. Come up through enhanced war cry and obviously over here to power. So if at least 6 enemies are nearby when you cast war cry, your damage bonus increased by additional x10. So that's going to be a better option than might over here, getting more life based upon, or fortified based on life, excuse me. Not going to be nearly as important. We're going to cap out swiftness to get more movement speed. We're capping out booming voice, and it's kind of like last remaining situation here. We got 2 out of 3 here for raid leaders, so your shouts also heal allies for 2% of their max life per second. So this is obviously a case of, if you're playing in groups. If you're a strictly solo player, I mean, go ahead and skip it, I suppose, but that's all up to you. Down here, obviously, aggressive, we got 1 into it, so 3% damage reduction while berserking, but that's kind of to get over to prolific fury. While berserking, fury generation is increased by 18%. So we got several different locations where our fury generation is increased. That really helps us while we're spinning around in whirlwind to really keep that resource higher. Now, once we get down over to this side, we've got pit fighter. We got capped out at all 3 points, 9% increased damage to close enemies and gain 6% distant damage reduction. Obviously more safety, survivability in that one. Now we got one into thick skin to go ahead and get over to counter offensive. So while you have fortify for over 50% of your max life, you deal 12% increased damage. Go ahead and cap that one out with 3 of them. Solid option for there. And down to Wrath of the Berserker. This is our final skill that we can fit on our bar. This is going to be our ultimate skill. Obviously get the boost for that one, Prime Wrath of the Berserker and Supreme Wrath of the Berserker. A few more passives over here. We've got heavy-handed. So while using 2-handed weapons, weapons deal 15% increased critical strike damage. Cap that one out. We've got Wallop capped out, so bludgeoning weapons deal that much more damage for You know, this is obviously if you're not going to use a bludgeoning weapon, if you're not following this guide to an exact T, you're going to change some things up. But skills using a bludgeoning weapon have a 30% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds. So obviously, if you aren't using bludgeoning weapons, these are ones you're going to want to shift around to a different location. Now, coming down to our key passive down here, we've got Unbridled Rage. Core skills deal 135% increased damage, but cost 100% more fury. Now, luckily, you can keep your resource generation high enough that even using 100% more, it's possible to keep it going like maxed out capped resource the whole time you're spinning if you have a perfect build. If not having a perfect build, it's going to drop down, but you can go ahead and regenerate that. A-okay. We've got that down. Take a look at the gear. And these are, you know, you get them when you can get them. Obviously, if you're like level 50, you're not going to have all this stuff. But if you have it capped out, you know, a high level character doing high level dungeons, this is stuff you're going to want to get. And where I think is going to be the best spot to kind of have these different aspects. You notice, good thing about this build, no uniques needed. It's not one like the Druid that you have to have Tempest Roar to do the Storm Wolf or something along those lines. You don't need any uniques that are like hard to find. If you're like level 70 or 80, you're going to have you're going to have every single one of these aspects. Like you literally are going to find them by that point for sure. So up on the top here, aspect of Numbing Wrath. So each point of fury generated while at maximum fury grants you Fortify. You're generating a ton of fury all the time. You're going to have so much Fortify constantly. It's out of control. Right here, we got Relentless Berserker's aspect. So unlucky hit damaging a close enemy with a core skill has a % chance to extend the duration of berserking. Double this duration if it was a critical strike. Throwing that on the chest piece, coming down to the gloves. We've got the Whirlwind, pulls enemy closer to you. The aspect of Grasping Whirlwind. Absolute clutch. You kind of want to have that on as soon as you can get one. That's absolutely amazing to have. Down here at aspect of Disobedience. So you gain blank increase armor for 4 seconds after dealing any form of damage. This one you have on literally every single character because it's so amazing. Defense is absolutely key and absolutely clutch on this game. So there you're throwing it on the pants, and pretty much every character, not just Barbarian, has that right there on the pants. Am I right? Down here is Ghost Walker's aspect. So while unstoppable for 4 seconds, you know, you gain the movement speed. This is another one that's on a ton of characters. I know for my Druid that I love playing a ton, you slam that in the same spot. So those are two pretty standard for almost any character. And then down on the bludgeoning weapon, so Whirlwind's critical strike chance is increased by that percentage for each second it is channeled up to 9 to 24%. And you're going to be just like spinning nonstop. So you're going to have a ton of extra damage there for sure. Now, if you do take this aspect and put it somewhere else, do note these are dual two-handed weapon. So remember, this actually gets doubled. That's why it is on this particular weapon. And also another two-handed weapon would be this one right here, aspect of Limitless Rage. So each point of fury you generate while at maximum fury grants your next core skill increased damage. So this one also gets doubled because these are both two-handed weapons. That's why it's kind of important to get these here to really just boost up even more damage for critical strike and just in general your next core skill. Now down on these are the one-handed weapons that you dual wield, but really you're not even attacking with them. But attack enemies with a basic skill increases the damage your next core skill by up to 30%. Throw that one on one of the one-handed weapons, and over here, aspect of Retribution. Distant enemies have an 8% chance to stun for 2 seconds when they hit you. So that way you're just not getting hit multiple times, you know, by those distant enemies. There's a chance that they just stun themselves and they won't be able to attack you anymore. So you deal 20% increased damage to those said stunned enemies, just giving you a chance to take those out a little bit easier. Up here, we got the Edge Master's aspect, and it's a little bit off of the screen, but the Edge Master's aspect is that you deal damage based upon how much primary resource you have. Sorry, it's a little bit off the top for whatever reason. Not sure why it won't just go down, but that's neither here nor there. This one is another one that you have on literally every single character. The Edge Masters, almost everybody knows what it is, and you pretty much always throw it on your amulet. So any build guide ever, you're gonna know what it is. Let me go ahead and zoom out, and it might be a little zoomed too small for you to see over next to my head here, but just it is the Edge Master's aspect. Down here we got aspect of Echoing Fury, so your shouts generate fury per second while active. So You're using the shouts all the time. That one's a pretty obvious one. Slapping it on the ring right there. And whenever you cast a shout, its cooldown is reduced by 1 to 2 seconds, nearly 2 seconds anyways, per nearby enemy with a maximum of 6. So you're going to want to use those shouts when you're up kind of closer to enemies, as long as they are nearby you, so you get less cooldown. You can use them more often. If you want to take a look down here at you know, what you're going to put in stuff in any weapons, slapping those emeralds, pretty normal. Critical strikes to vulnerable enemies. That's almost standard for most builds in this game. And then we've got the sapphires in the armor here. So damage reduction while fortified. You're fortified like all of the time. And I know some people slap rubies in, but really when you look at how much life you get from slapping in those rubies, it's not really that much. The damage reduction actually helps out even more. Now for these hearts for the season, I mean the barber, you got to put that in every single build nowadays because it's so much more overpowered than what they probably intended originally. Not sure really, I guess on that is kind of speculation on my part. The barber you got to have it on every build, throw that in there. So here we got the revenge heart here. So when incoming damage is suppressed, and instead when you use the defensive, skip the other things, but when you use the defensive skill, all suppressed damage is amplified by 250 and explodes out in a fire nearby. And over here we got tempting fate. So you gain blank, that was 65 to 85 critical strike damage, but your non-critical strikes deal 40 to 45% less damage. So the goal is here, obviously you want your critical strike chance super high, so you're doing just pretty much all critical strikes, right? Getting a ton more damage out of that. Now, when you look down here at the skills, you can see we got lined up right here down at the bottom. We've got Whirlwind and we got the Lunging Strike, Wrath of the Berserker, Challenging Shout, War Cry, and Rallying Cry. Now taking a look over at the Paragon board, this is kind of where we finish up at. Now, if you want to swap some of these around, maybe some of them you want to get to first and go to the next one second, I completely understand. Down here we got the main board with our exploit glyph. That's almost standard for every build actually. Sometimes you'll get around this point, get into the second board before you even find the exploit glyph. So maybe you come back and kind of get the board the way that you actually want it here after you get a little further through the boards. For the second board over here, we actually have the weapons mastery board, but we actually didn't get to the weapon mastery node. We're just kind of passing through real quick to get to where we can socket another glyph. Here we have Martial, so grants 120% bonus to all magic nodes within this range. And there's actually quite a few good magic nodes in here. We get a ton of armor over here on this one. And down here we get physical damage, physical damage, physical damage. So right there, a ton of magic nodes right there. And actually, maybe if you're leveling this Warbringer Barb, you might want to get to actually first, because this can actually help you out a ton early on. And if you shifted some of these around and connected them up, you're going to be a-okay. But we got this over to the actual legendary node for Warbringer. And the reason I say you might want to get to this one first, perhaps, maybe connecting it up here, get over to Fury on Kill, Maximum Fury, Fury on Kill, Maximum Fury, and then both of those on this rare node right here. That can really help out your Fury problems, your resource problems on any character that has anything that helps out your resource generation. And here on the Barbarian, it's no different for the Fury. Over here, we did put in the Wrath rare glyph right here. So for every 5 decks within this range, you deal increased critical strike damage. And you can see just based upon the size, we got some decks around here, decks. So that's going to be boosting up our critical strike damage. We got more here, more here, more here. And then up here, there's even more dexterity on a couple of these magic nodes. So we're actually getting a bunch more critical strike damage with that node in this particular spot. Like I said, I would consider going with this first, and then maybe later you get to like level 80 and you want to really min-max your board. Go exactly precisely with this particular one here. Now, you can see up here we have the Decimator board, but once again, we're not really worrying about the legendary node on this one. So we just get in our Imbibber. I never really understood how you pronounce that one. Feel free to roast me in the comments about the pronunciation of that one, everyone who got this far in the video. But for every 5 willpower purchase within this range, you get increased damage while healthy. Now, generally, your health is going to be up a ton of time because you're getting just a ton of life back. So for every 5 willpower, and of course, when we look around over here, this is a ton of vulnerable on these rare ones, but we got willpower in a few different spots. We got some right there. We got up here, willpower. So we're getting increased damage while healthy, just boosting it up there. Coming over to the next board, we've got Bone Breaker. And on this Bonebreaker one, you notice a trend here. You notice a trend. We didn't get to the legendary node once again, but we're passing through to put on another rare glyph up here for Territorial. Every 5 dexterity within this range, you get increased damage to close enemies. Well, you're always close to enemies, fellas. You are always close to enemies. Once again, we're coming up through this rare node here, damage reduction while healthy. So as we move into the next board, you're gonna notice a little bit of a trend. Once again, once again. Oh, where is it even at? We did not get to the legendary node again, but we're getting up to socket another glyph. Undaunted. So for every 5 willpower purchase within this range, you get increased damage while fortified. So you're always fortified, so you're always gonna pretty much get that. And as you look around to willpower, 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 willpower. So we're getting more and more and more damage. And we are getting up to this rare node and this one over here for crit strike and physical damage, and damage reduction to close enemies with the magic nodes around those exact rare nodes as well. And that's kind of where our Paragon journey ends with this particular one. Now, I understand if you want to go into boards, like I said, I'll mention it one more time, in a little bit different order because your resource generation can be a little bit of a struggle early on. And I like getting into these resource generating boards super early. So hopefully you give the Barbarian and a Whirlwind a go. It really is a fun character to play. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe up if you're new to the channel for future Diablo 4 videos. Peace out, fellas, and don't forget, keep slaying.